and welcome again to Tech It Out. Today we are having the teardown of my old Linx 10 Windows tablet. If you remember, in my former video I bought what I thought was a broken tablet for the screen to replace the screen on this one because the screen was showing various white patches. Since then I've discovered that the other tablet is actually working, so there's no need to change the screen over. So I thought we'd do a teardown of this one, simply because there doesn't seem to be any other teardown available on YouTube at all for the Linx 10 tablet. And as the screen is failing, there's no point in keeping it, so I'll just tear it down and keep the internals as spare parts. Now the first thing I have to do is actually get inside this plastic back cover. There are little clips just behind the screen. There's a plastic section behind the screen which unclips from the back cover, and then it will just pop off. Getting in there isn't too easy. Now I'm going to fade out in a moment, simply because one of the other things that's wrong with this screen is that there's a crack in the right hand corner, and while I was doing this I managed to cut my finger. We're back again, and I finally managed to get all the clips free, and we'll see them in a minute as I turn the back over. You can see along the edges there the various clips. They're the ones that you have to get into to pop off. It's quite difficult. As you see on the back of the inside of the plastic casing, we have this EMF screen, this metal foil, which protects the internals of the motherboard from stray electromagnetic radiations, your phone or microwave or whatever, but also helps to protect the plastic as a heat shield, as of course the chip in this will get quite warm. So the first thing we need to do is just to unclip the Wi-Fi antenna, and then we can start taking off the bits of tape which hold everything down. This does take a while, it's a bit tedious. The tapes are quite accessible, which is good. This here at the bottom is the power supply, the charging port. And each of the pieces of tape are coming off quite easily. Just move them out of the way. And then we leave that last bit until later because it is under the battery itself. It's a bit harder to get at. We lift the tape here so we can get to this ribbon cable which connects the charging port to the motherboard, and then we lift off this next piece of foil. Now this piece of foil is not so much an EMF shield as a heat spreader for the CPU, that square shiny chip that you can see in the middle there. And as always, my short nails are no use at all when it comes to doing this type of thing. So a little assistance here from a plastic scraper just to lift up the sticky tape and then just peel it back out of the way. And so we now have access to this little daughter board, which is the main connector for capacitive touchpad underneath it. Comes off quite easily. Just slips out. Next part are the cameras and camera LED. There are two cameras, of course, the rear facing and front facing. The front facing is the one which has the LED to show that it's active. When I manage to get them off here, I'll be able to show you it's a very tiny LED. It's quite well stuck on. Again, just release it from the ribbon cable with the little clip. You can just see the little LED there, just on the edge there. It looks like a little white dot. And the two cameras themselves. Next we have the stereo speakers. Now, I must admit I didn't realise it had stereo speakers. I thought it only had one. I don't remember reading that it had two, but it does have two speakers. They're rearward facing. They're not the loudest of speakers, I've got to say. I have used them in the past, and I've had to use other amplification methods because the sound wasn't quite loud enough really, even with something, a board behind it, to reflect the sound. So we just unscrew the 3 screws. And pop off that board. So now we come to the battery, so I'll just move the heat spreader back out of the way. Just pull that bit off out the way. The battery itself is also stuck down. I'm not going to risk trying to pull it up. I'll just slide the plastic card under again to break the seal of the glue that's holding it. And it seems to be 2 blocks of battery, and each block is glued down, so I'm going to have to do this on both sides. Just sliding the card in as far as possible, one side then the other. Again, they seem to have used quite a powerful adhesive here. But the card is going in slowly. Little bit of force. So it's almost there. A little bit more on this side and we should be there. For a budget tablet, I have to say it is very well put together. Nothing rattling about inside, nothing loose. And I think we're just about there now. I should be able to just lift it. Finally, there were actually 3 strips of adhesive, one for either battery and one down the middle. And so we just unplug the connector here to finally release it fully. And there's the battery. I'll keep that because that is one thing that might come in handy for a later project, not necessarily as a replacement for my battery, but for some other projects that I have planned for the future. I don't think I'm going to be able to get this tape off the heat spreader, so I'll leave that as it is. So we come now almost to the last parts. You can see the capacitive touchscreen there, the back of it anyway. Just detach the port. I believe it's actually used for connecting the optional keyboard. And so finally we have the last connector, which is the main board to the LCD panel. So that's the last of the ribbon cables. This is the volume buttons. So as you can see, the memory modules, the CPU. Just before we take this off, we have to undo some more screws. We take off the last little sticky, which is holding the Wi-Fi antenna. We lift up the motherboard itself. There's one little connector still there. What looks like a little beeper module. So you can see now all the connectors and the ports. So all that remains really is to tidy up a little bit. Keep this battery safe. Make sure it doesn't ever get bent or crushed or pierced, as they can literally catch fire if you don't handle them properly. And that's it. The teardown is complete. Thank you again for watching.